Hey guys, it's Nemo and welcome to the channel. Today's video we have the Tier 9 French battleship, the Alsace. Now, I don't actually call these battleships. These are like big, heavy cruisers. That's how you play French battleships. They're fast, they're maneuverable, and they're very lightly armoured for battleships. They've got 32mm of armour all round, so on your nose, on your plating, on your decking, on your stern, so you can be absolutely eaten alive by high explosive spammers, and that's why you want to play this as a cruiser and not as a bow tanking battleship. In fact, bow tanking battleships, there may only be one or two battleships that can do that now, and that's on the Russian line. Otherwise, everything else, bow tanking is not a viable tactic. Not with high explosive spam and 32mm of decking armor. You cannot stand up to a Venezia. The only ship that can really stand up to a Venezia with its deck armor is the Kremlin, because it has 60mm of decking armor. Everything else, well, you're in for a world of hurt, because the sap on the Venezia can penetrate 53mm of armor. So, what else does the Alsace have? Well, she's got 12 of these 380mm guns in a 3-turret setup, 2 in the front and 1 at the rear. Now, 380mm guns is significant, and you can see me firing high explosive here at the Venezia, because 380mm armor piercing shells cannot overmatch 27mm of armor. So it can beat 25, but it can't beat anything higher than that. And most ships up at tier 10 have a little bit higher than the 25mm. Definitely battleships over the 25mm threshold. I think most cruisers actually may have 25mm of bow armor. So I know, for example, the Des Moines does not. You can't penetrate the Moskva, the Stalingrad, any of that bow one, because you haven't got the overmatch capability with your small caliber guns. But the good thing about these small caliber guns is that the high explosive penetration is actually pretty good. It's not the 1/4 pen that you see on British battleships, but later on you'll see a couple of my salvos hit, and we'll be doing 8,000 damage with penetration on high explosive, just by hitting the upper belt and superstructure and deck area. So one great thing about these ships, as I mentioned before, is her maneuverability and her speed. And as you can see there, like, I was favoured with a good opening in those torpedoes against the Alsace. The Alsace is one of the things that you hate being shot at by in a battleship, because the torpedoes are absolutely devastating. It allows the Alsace to get around areas and positions on the battlefield that other ships can't get to as fast, which makes her very handy in repositioning. Now, as you can see, that the high explosive, you'll see me use mainly high explosive in this battle. I do switch to AP every now and then. AP is viable on broadsides, especially cruisers. The 380mm broadside with armor piercing on a cruiser is quite devastating. Unfortunately for me, most of my broadside shots that I will have in this match on cruisers is against Venezia, and Venezia is notoriously maneuverable, even better so than what these French battleships are. So aiming up armor piercing to try and hit a Venezia broadside, you really need to have a good target. She has to be locked into position either by torpedoes or having to bow tank something. So she might be bow tanking another battleship. 3 fires set in 1 salvo there. You saw the big penetration damage on the North Carolina. And this is why we fire our high explosive. It's consistent damage. A lot of people are going to call you, HE spamming mom or something like that. But the thing is that the people who are going to attack others about firing certain ammunition are the ones who really don't understand the game. As I said, the 380mm guns really haven't got the penetration values on their AP to be able to, or the overmatch capability, I should say, to do massive amounts of damage compared to other battleships in the game. We've called for a kite off sea. We're about to get overwhelmed, and as you can see, that's the first salvo from the Venezia that have actually been able to mitigate damage. He has done consistent damage to me the whole time, and of all the ships here that I'm worried about, it's not actually the Alsace, which a lot of people would be most worried about. It's the Venezia, because the Venezia can absolutely wreck a French battleship because it just hasn't got the armour to protect itself. The Orléans has done a pretty good job in safeguarding this cap and delaying as much as you can. The problem is that he stayed a little too long. You've got to realise when you're in the cap too long as a destroyer. If you stay around and you die, as he did, you just end up letting the team down eventually, because you take the eyes away from the team and then you take your torpedo capabilities away as well. Unfortunately, Cleveland and Neptune, they're going to die as heroes because there's nothing they can do. That position is outflanked, and I know I can't hang around. I haven't got the armor and the capabilities in this ship to be able to take on the heavy push of those 2 American battleships, Venezia, Buffalo, the Bismarck over on A10. I don't know what he's doing over there. But if he was even to come into the battle there, then the overwhelming numbers there would surely win that cap, and we'd lose. If I was to stay and die, then we'd be 3 more ships down, not just 2. So I'll return to the middle. As I said, these ships are quite fast. When you play the speed boost on them, they can get around the battlefield quite quickly. So we're just going to go for resets. One thing you don't want to do is lose the caps that you've got. If you can defend the caps, then go for it. So we're firing upon the Masashi. He's the one in the cap. We want to get rid of him. Now what I'm going to do here is actually head back over towards the cap I was on. Now I did say it was flooded with enemies, and it is. And as you can see, our brave Cleveland and Neptune are going down, or have gone down. But the rest of my team is at A, so I need to create time. So I'm going to come over this way and try to open up a flanking position, which, as I said, French battleships can do that very well. Open the flanking position. You just got to be careful of isolation. As you can see, the Graf Zeppelin's coming back into me. But if I can buy enough time for my teammates to get from A to B, then I can always turn around and reposition and go dark, which these can do so well. As I keep saying, they can do it so well. So the AA is not too bad, as you saw. Like, obviously it's a tier 8 aircraft carrier, but you still can defend yourself quite well. Tier 8 aircraft carriers can hurt, and as you saw, they're like nearly 9,000 damage, 8,910 damage on that broadside, high explosive penetration on that upper belt, that deck area, and that superstructure area of the broadside highway. So you can do pretty consistent damage. with your 380mm high explosive. You saw me there, that the map changing there. I'm just tapping the M key. That brings up the tactical map. So if you just tap it and then tap it again, it'll give you a overlook view of what's behind those islands, and it's quite effective. It's not as good as it used to be. They sort of nerfed it. Wargaming nerfed it a little bit because it used to be extremely effective. Every now and then when you're in zoom, it'll skew the view, but you can still use it quite well. So we've got 2 enemy ships here now, and it's, well, one one enemy ship after that devastating strike. That's here in on this flank, and again it's the Venezia, and Venezia is the ship that you least want to take on in any French battleship. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kite off him. We're going to fire maybe one last salvo, and then we're going to go dark. The good thing about the French battleships is they actually have pretty good concealment as well. The problem with that really good concealment is the constant CV spam in games. Unfortunately, one of the most overpowered things of an aircraft carrier is not really the damage that it does, but the fact that it continuously keeps everything spotted in a game. So even trying to disengage and reposition, you're likely going to be spotted because the aircraft carrier, when it flies around everywhere, just keeps everyone lit. And it's a real, it's an annoying mechanic, but we deal with that. So the Alsace has actually come back into the cap and capped out. I have switched to AP because I was hoping to get that Venezia broadside, so I've gone dark here to try and catch him. But he has been playing very well, so I'm not expecting him to pop up in a broadside position to me. He will more likely be in that, as you can see, that kiting position where he's able just to farm on the rest of my teammates. Finally, our friend in the enemy battleship turns up, and Bismarck, and he's going to be back in the battle. Now, as you can see here, I have the Cheshire lit up, or targeted, ready to go. Now, I know that as a British cruiser, she has no more than 25mm of armour on her bow, so I can actually overmatch her. So AP here is really, really good. It will punch through the frontal armour of the ship, and as you can see there's a citadel. Unfortunately for me, Jigs was also firing at the Cheshire and gets the killing shot. So there's an example of being able to use the armor piercing through the nose of ships that are 25mm and under. It's the 27mm and over that you can't do that with. So that's a perfect example of what we call overmatch. So when you hear people, I talk about a lot, talking about overmatch, that's what we talk about. Overmatching that armor scheme and being able to punch through that bow armor at almost, pretty much, any angle. The Bismarck here, he's becoming a bit of a free farm. He's pushing out into a position where he's fighting essentially a giant cruiser, which is what I am, and I'm a lot faster, and I'm a lot more maneuverable than he is, and my high explosive is a lot more accurate than his armor-piercing shells. The Bismarck and all German battleships are notoriously trolly when it comes to their dispersion. You know, most of their salvos will be as he just fired, where they will not do anything because they just spray all over the place, and then other times you get this miracle shot where your dispersion is so tight that you just absolutely wreck everything. And it's a real shame that the entire line German battleships is built like that. See, that shot was pretty tight, that first one. As you can see, the last 2, 3 have been quite spread and falling short. But falling short might more just be not very good aim. As you saw there, the way he fired, he ripple fired the shots. You shouldn't be ripple firing battleship salvos. That you don't fire fast enough for ripple fire. The problem with ripple firing shots, as opposed to just a full broadside, is that each individual shot from a turret gets its own RNG. So if you just fire a whole broadside, so for me, for example, launching all 12 guns at once will give me one lot of RNG, whereas if you ripple fire out of each turret, you get, and for the Bismarck, that's 4, you get 4 lots of RNG. So you're really hindering your salvo every time you ripple fire. You could ripple fire destroyers because they fire so fast. You can ripple fire things like the Smolensk, the Minotaur, the Worcester, because these ships fire so fast. So the faster you can fire, yes, you can ripple fire. The RNG doesn't really matter because you're throwing out so many shells. The Alsace here tries to do a little sneaky. And if he had have actually been able to kill the Shikaku, bit of a spoiler there, he doesn't kill the Shikaku, this game may have ended quite differently. So we're at the end of the battle, we're out of all consumables, we're trying to move back in and help out. It's only really this Alsace to go. The Venezia has played really well, but you know, when you're at this point of the game, and we still have so many ships left, the only thing that can really do too much damage to our team is going to be the Graf Zepp, because there are 2 ships that the Alsace can really hurt, which is myself and our North Carolina, who has actually played a fantastic game. But when you get yeah, when you get a Kitakaze versus an Alsace close range, it's a no-brainer. If the Kitakaze loses, especially the amount of health that Jigs is on there, some serious questions should be asked. In fact, a Royal Commission should go into that type of loss. So, we're pushing back in. We don't really need to. The game is over, but I just want to try and add some more 380mm shells and firepower to this battle. Try and farm a little bit more damage. The more shells that I can get off while helping my teammates out means that the battle is going to be shorter and more likely win. But 5 versus 1, you know, we were almost pointing out as well, 2 caps. It's going to be very difficult for this Venezia, even though he has played well, to bring this game back. So my potential damage up in the corner, as you can see, you know, I've done 140,000 damage of my own, but potential damage is 2.3 million. That's 2.3 million damage that hasn't hit my teammates, which is really, really handy, especially when you're playing at top tier. So it's a tier 9 game, top tier. Most tier 9 games now you get top tier, which is so good. I love this tier now. It's the new tier 7, brilliant tier. 143,000 damage, 91, not too bad there with the ship, mainly firing high explosive. See, finished in 4th. Our North Carolina played very well there, and so did the rest of my division mates. So how do we build the Alsace? Well, we're going to start with Main Armaments Mod 1. We're going to go for Damage Control System Mod 1, Aiming Systems Mod 1. We're going to run Propulsion Modification 1, then we're going to run Concealment, and after Concealment Mod 1 we're going to run Main Battery Mod 3. Extra reload, not as much fire damage, a bit more maneuverability in there, which is what we really want with these ships. So our first 10 points, if you have an Honore brother, run them on the ship, they're great for it, is Priority Target. Then you're going to go Expert Marksman. After Expert Marksman we're going to run Basics of Survivability, and then we're going to run Concealment, and that's our first 10. Your other points we're going to spec into Expert Loader, so we can get whatever shell we need at the right time. High Alert, then we're going to run Adrenaline Rush, And after Adrenaline Rush, we're going to be running our fire prevention. You have 32mm of armor. You will get targeted by high explosive spammers, because that's pretty much all there are in the game at the moment, is high explosive spammers, and you will melt to that. A lot of people want to try and run their French battleships as meme ships with they do have great secondaries, yes, but survivability is what you want when you're fighting, especially long duration battles. These cannot brawl. They may have a turtleback, but it's not German turtleback, so try not to brawl them. Big cruisers is what you want to play them as. Love this ship, absolutely great ship. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me, and stay safe out there.